to introduce myself as Prasad Rao. I'm MD and CEO of NABKISAN, and I'm joined here by my other colleagues from NABARD, Mr. Vikas Bhatt, who is MD, NABVENTURES, and Mr. Ashish, who is the CIO of NABVENTURES. Why I have given this introduction is, see, together we are a very complete player. We are all the subsidiaries of NABARD, and together, I think NABVENTURES, NABARD and NABKISAN, we actually provide a very comprehensive range of solutions to the entire agri scenario or the rural sector in the country. So what are the things that we do? I think before I actually speak on a very specific topic which will be of interest to you, which is the loan product, I think it would also be important for me to set the context of what NABKISAN is doing and why this loan product to agri-startups is of ultimate relevance to us. So I have got a presentation, but I will not run you through this presentation. Maybe this is the genesis and objectives of NABKISAN. It's a 1997 company. Initially started off as a state-specific company, but now we have migrated to a pan-India operations. So our focus is on lending to farmers, producers organization. And that is where I'm going to be spending a few minutes to tell you all about what farmers, producers organization is about. You must all be knowing that the pattern of land holding has actually changed a lot over the last many years. And even, as we speak, the latest survey talks about further fragmentation of land. Maybe from about 1 hectare over 5 or 6 years ago, it has come down to below 1 hectare. So what does this all mean? This means farming as a livelihood option is a very challenging proposition to the farmer. So how do you make the unit economics more viable for the farmer? And that is where we come into the picture. We believe in the model of aggregation of all these small and marginal farmers and bring them under the umbrella of farmers producers organization. So we call this as farmers collectives. So to a great deal, by aggregating these farmers under one roof, we are able to give them economies of scale as well as better bargaining power, by virtue of which they tend to earn a little more out of the same activity that they were doing. But I think it's been quite a while since we have been doing this, and as on date, NABARD has promoted more than 8,000 FPOs all over the country, and NABKISAN itself, we have lent to more than 3,000 farmers, producers across the country. So this movement has reached a very critical stage where we now are required to think differently to help these farmers producers organization and the FPO members realize the benefit or unlock the benefits of aggregation. And that is where I think these startups are very important. Why these are important? Because these startups come out with technologies which would be useful in the agriculture sector. We have ourselves supported a lot of technologies. And when I'm saying that we have supported, it is NABKISAN has supported. So there is a small distinction which I would like to draw here. So when we talk about NABKISAN, what we do is providing debt support to startups. Whereas my colleague Mr. Vikas Bhatt, they provide equity support to startups. So he will speak about it separately. I would focus more on the debt support to startups. Our objective is we should take innovative technologies from the startups to the farmers producers organization. By doing this, we are able to reach technology to the farmer and help them earn more income out of what they are doing. So let me give you a few examples like TraceX. We have a startup where we're working. So traceability of agriculture produce is a very important aspect. So we are working with them to help scale up their activities with farmers so that the consumer has got more visibility in as far as the end product is concerned. He knows where this product has come from, and what are the package of practices that have been followed, and so on. Likewise, we have just now sanctioned a project for shrimp farming. So shrimp farmers are able to get the full stack of services as far as shrimp farming is concerned, right from manufacture of indigenous goods to IoT devices and the technology stack overlaying these products, which helps the shrimp farmers to reduce the mortality and earn higher income. So there are a lot of technologies which have come up, which are being propagated by these startups. And one of the most important things that are required, or that is required for these startups, is capital. And that is where NABKISAN comes into play. What NABKISAN does is, we provide a combination of working capital, term loan, or it could be a combination of any of these two. So it could be working capital, term loan, or a combination of working capital and term loan. And we are very, very flexible when it comes to lending. We are very generous when it comes to lending. We lend to agri-enterprises, we lend to agri-corporates, agri-startups, virtually the entire gamut of the units which are operating in the agri space. What is the only distinction that we want to know before we take a credit decision? Whether there is a visibility on the revenue for the startup. If the idea has gone beyond the stage of ideation, that is where we come into the picture, and based on visibility in the revenue, we take a call on credit. We have been very aggressive as far as lending to startups are concerned. So I do have a slide which talks about the eligibility criteria. So I will just take you through that. Yes. So it's a very simple criteria that we have kept out, basically to help the startups to avail of debt support, which is very critical for them to scale up their operations. So these are the institutions which are eligible, those startups which are working in the field of agriculture and rural development with established business models and who are looking to scale up their operations. So all those institutions, all those startups which are actually fulfilling this criteria are eligible for credit support from NABKISAN. And these are the activities. Any income that gives you revenue visibility is eligible for availing credit support from NABKISAN. And these are the eligibility criteria. We'll go to the next one. The quantum of support. We provide assistance up to 85%. The margin required is about 15%. Security and the interest rate. Interest rate is basically based on the ALCO. We have a framework which helps us determine the interest rates. So the interest rate varies from time to time based on the rates at that particular point in time. Yeah, so these are the list of startups that we have already supported. I mentioned a few of them to you as well. Yeah, so this is it. We have a Q&A session at the end of this program. Once my colleagues finish, then if you have any questions, we would be very happy to take them. Thank you very much for your very patient hearing.
I am Vikas Bhatt. I am Managing Director in NABVENTURES Limited. NABVENTURES Limited is a subsidiary, wholly owned subsidiary of NABARD, just like NABKISAN. So basically, we are more or less in the same space. If we talk about the startup ecosystem, NABARD and its subsidiaries like NABKISAN and NABVENTURES have been supporting this startup ecosystem in some way or other, but through different tools, through different instruments, of course. So NABARD, as you know, basically, if you see startup ecosystem, basically it has evolved over last 10 to 12 years, especially after that SEBI regulation that came in 2012, SEBI fund regulations. But NABARD has been supporting funds, AIFs, alternative investment funds, right from 2005. Because if you try to understand the startup ecosystem, who are the players basically? One is startup, of course. Startup is the major player. That is the major. That's for that ecosystem exists. Then there are agencies or investors who fund those startups, who support those startups either through uh, equity or through debt or grant or anything, or maybe through mentorship also. So, a startup is one. Then there are funds whom we call AIF, Alternative Investment Funds, right? Then there are banks, there are FPOs, there are farmers. So, from NABARD point of view, we have been supporting alternative investment funds so that they can invest in startups, right? Till now, we have almost invested, committed more than 750 crore of rupees in 33 alternative investment funds so that they could invest in startups. Basically, because we have mandate for agriculture and rural development, so most of our funding is going into the same sector, agriculture sector and rural development sector. That is one. So that was one effort we were making. Second, again, there are some other players for like incubation centers and agriculture universities. Basically, what happens when a startup it just starts, they don't have that much of they need that kind of infrastructure, mentorship, some space to develop his idea and then convert into a successful business model. So for that, there are so many incubation centers set up by IITs, IIMs, and your agriculture universities. So NABARD has already supported 7 such incubation centers so that they can set up the required infrastructure. It is in 2 are in Telangana, I think 1 in Chennai, 1 in Haryana, 7 are there in the country. So that new startups who just want to start, who doesn't have capital, who just haven't got an idea, who doesn't have an infrastructure, they can connect with those universities. You will find all those details in these slides also, and on our website also, NABARD website also. So you can reach out to such incubation centers. We provide grant to these incubation centers so that they can support such small startups to develop their ideas, develop some prototype, and reach to that level so that they can attract some angel funding to start with, some seed investment funding. So that is another kind of support we are supporting. So we are supporting alternative investment funds, we are supporting incubation centers, and then just to have the first-hand experience of startups and to get into direct support to startups, in 2018, we set up the subsidiary NABVENTURES, where we started directly investing into startups, NABVENTURES. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of NABARD, and we have a mandate for investing in startups who are working in agriculture and rural development. Who are the startups we work in? Basically, what happens like agriculture, if we say, there are so many pressing challenges in agriculture, and even the whole government machinery, if we see, that is not sufficient to bring about that change that is required in agriculture and make it a viable option. So startups being nimble-footed, being agile, they are providing such solutions for different issues in agriculture. And these kind of startup we are looking for, we look for, we invest in, who are driving technology into agriculture through different interventions. So basically we operate through funds. Our first fund was NABVENTURE Fund 1. Ashish will tell the details about the funds, but I'll just give you a heads up. We invest through funds. Our first fund was set up in 2019. We have already invested in almost 14 companies, and we are about to invest in 4 or 5 companies in coming month that we have already tied up. So almost 600 crores we have pumped in almost 18-20 startups, and all these startups are like either they are in traceability, they are in supply chain solution, they are in like blockchain technology, and they are providing all solution in agriculture through some technology, some new technology. So that is one thing that we want to see in startup, that they should be driven by some new technology, and that should not be replicable, like, because see, it's an investment. How equity, loan and grant are different, because we are approached by many startups for support. So grant you give, you work on it, it is not taken back. Loan, you give some collateral to bank, and then some collateral, some security, and then you pay in installment. Equity is a totally different ball game. A fund like NABVENTURES, we invest in a startup, we take partial ownership in it, we take a share in its equity, And then we put our skin in the game. And then we also observe the day-to-day activities of startup. We mentor them for all through the fund life, and like see its growth and help them grow through not only capital support but also through extensive network of NABARD. We have offices in all districts and capitals. So all that network we use to nurture those startups, and then other subsidies also come in through debt support and all that. So that's how we work in. If you see like startup ecosystem overall in the country, maybe today around 1.4 lakh DPIT registered startup in the country. Out of that, can you believe how many are in agriculture? Just about 3,000. Out of 1.4 lakh startup, just about 3,000 startups are there who are in agri-tech sector. And if we add up food technology startup, then it number comes to around 7,000. Still, it's a minuscule number if you see the whole number of 1.4 lakh startups. That's where NABKISAN, NABVENTURES, NABARD becomes important, because agriculture is otherwise seen not as a very viable activity. Its gestation period is long. It doesn't give that much return that other activities are giving. So that's where we pitch in. That's where NABVENTURES is investing. That's where NABKISAN is investing. So that that kind of funding in a startup which is required, that is pumped up through different sources. We have recently launched our new fund, Agri-Sure. Some of you people might have heard in newspaper. We have launched it maybe in some time when that registration process and other legal process is done. We will soon start investment. In Agri-Sure fund is also totally dedicated to agri-tech startups. And then maybe in next 5 years, we'll be investing in some 20-25 companies, and our ticket size will be up to 25 crore in each company. So we will be targeting those startups who have got some seed funding, who have built up some revenue stream, but they are not able to scale up. They want to enter into new market, they want to scale up their business, but they are not getting the capital because they are from agriculture setup. So there we want to invest, and those startups who have got some new technologies, who are bringing in some new innovation in agriculture. So those kind of startup, soon we will start investing in through our Agri-Sure fund, new fund, and maybe around, as I said, we will be supporting some 15, 20, 25 startup depending on the different ticket sizes in next 5 years. Not only this, in this fund, we will also be supporting those funds who are investing in agri-startups. So it is like a double kind of support. So one is we will be directly investing in startup, and other is like we will be investing in those funds who want to otherwise invest in startups. So this way, these are two funds how we are developing our self in this infrastructure, how we are placed in this agriculture ecosystem, agri-startup ecosystem. So before going further, I think we will listen from my colleague Ashish Chaudhary, CIO. He will share some more nuances about what we look into startups and how our funds operate and how can we approach us, or what we expect from a startup, like how can we support. And then I think we'll keep it open for question and answer session, right? Thank you.
Because I think in terms of layers of support that NABARD provides along with the subsidiaries, I think a lot of Prasad sir and Vikas have covered. So another layer of support that NABARD provides is through NABVENTURES, which is the direct equity part. See, in terms of capital, you have to be very sure of what sort of capital do you raise, whether it's in a startup, whether it's an institution, whether it's a emerging company. At different stages of your life, different stages of your startup, the type of capital that you need is different. So it's not that equity capital is good for everyone, it's not that debt is good for everyone. So in terms of your own life cycle, first assess which is the right sort of capital that you want to get into, whether it's a working capital, whether it's a term loan, whether it's a grant, whether it's a equity capital or direct equity capital. And obviously we can answer those in Q&A session, but my job is to just at least first give you a brief in terms of specific details that the fund that we have launched in terms of direct equity that NABVENTURES does. What does the fund actually entail? What does it look into? We just cover that. So NABVENTURES as a subsidiary, the details Vikas has mentioned, it was again incorporated as a investment manager for direct equity funds. As of now, there are two funds inside NABVENTURES. First fund, which is NABVENTURES Fund 1. This was launched in FY20 with a capital of 598 crores. and this has been fully deployed as we speak. And this was again raised from 14 different institutions. This entire capital has been deployed across 14 different companies, out of which 12 companies are now active. We'll come to those just to give a glimpse of what sort of companies that we have supported from this particular fund. And subsequent to this particular fund, we have launched Agri-Startup, and this is again a one-of-a-kind fund that that's again unique to the market. It's a blend of government support, which is Ministry of Agriculture, along with NABARD, and you have other financial institutions which have pooled in the capital. And this capital would again get deployed into more number of startups. To be specific, this would range from around 85 to 100 startups. How do we arrive at that number? We'll just get into that. So in terms of details, these are the two funds that are that the NAB Ventures runs. The first fund is closed, but we'll understand from a perspective of what is the sort of companies that we look for. Agri-Startup is something that has been launched, and we'll get into details of those subsequently. NAB Ventures Fund 1, if you look at in terms of any of the startups that grows, there are a lot of stages to it, and most of the startups, if I may say, move from ideation to incubation to a commercialization stage. That's where most of the fatalities or most of the support is needed. So from the first fund perspective, consciously we have chosen a very specific domain, which is from a early to growth stage, not exactly the seed part, but we'll come to why direct equity may not be the right blend, the right capital for a seed sort of company. For a seed sort of company, I'll suggest prefer more of a grant, because if you're in product development, look for there are hundreds of grant schemes, hundreds of support schemes from different states, different financial institutions, and government also. So scout for those opportunities, because again, first is grant, as Vikas mentioned. First is grant. Second is you go for debt capital, where you can go for a small revenue-based financing or collateral-based financing. And then subsequently, when you have certain revenues with your startup, then get into the equity part of it, because equity is the riskiest form of capital. It has a 25-30% IRR that people will ask from you. So go to the fundraising stage only at a certain stage of your startup. But so in the first fund, coming back to the point that it's an early to growth stage that we have picked on in terms of set of companies that we have backed up. And all of these companies have taken basically a tech-driven approach to solve certain problems. Because if you solve the same problem traditional way, it's not getting solved. Because if it would have been that way, someone would have solved it. And specifically if there is a new stream of young Indian minds who are coming up, not just from the agri background, but from engineering, from IITs, from IIMs, and multiple universities, if they are coming to set up the startups, obviously there has to be a tech-driven approach to solve the problem, which is a very traditional problem. So I think that's where sort of companies that we try to look for. In terms of sectors that we have targeted, again from agri-tech, which is the ag-tech part of it, the food tech, which also includes how you enable the food to reach to the final consumer. That's the food tech part of it. In terms of enablers, because rural economy just doesn't grow by capital or something, there are enablers like education, healthcare, and a lot of other things which also need for the growth of the entire livelihood of rural. So that's where another sector that we have taken the bet on and trying to focus on that. And financial services, again, it's a big horizontal stream that I may say that runs across the segments that we try to look for. So 14 companies that we have backed, 12 of those we have mentioned there, and 4-5 of them would obviously be there in the participating in this event itself. If you look at the companies, just to give a glimpse, you would find certain deep tech companies like a Satyukt, which is into satellite-based imagery to use to solve certain problems around pre-harvest as well as to an extent post-harvest issues also. Krishi Tantra, which is again trying to build a farm 360 sort of solution to solve multiple problems around not just soil testing, but how do you manage the entire farm. Again, a startup from Kerala, Beyond Snack, which is how do you use the specific variety of Kerala banana and take it to the not just India but outside world also. So all these, in terms of startups, you look at risk. Again, this is solving the credit problem of a lot of financial institutions, because how do the financial institutions assess a particular credit for a particular borrower? That's where risk comes in. After all these companies backing, these are the active portfolio companies that we have. Taking the learnings from these, the first fund, we have incorporated all those learnings in the second fund, which is Agri-Startup. So this is again a fund which I may say an early stage VC fund, which is a blend of capital from three different streams, which is the government, NABARD and the other institutions. Why it's unique is because it has one is a direct equity segment, which is 300 crore. It also supports other funds which would invest which would invest the commitment from AgriShore into more number of startups. So how it works is that if I put say 1 crore in a particular startup, that's 1 crore for that particular startup. If I give 1 crore to a fund, that 1 crore has to become 5, that fund would invest 5 times of that particular, just to give an example, 5 times of that 1 crore, which is 5 crore into 5 different startups. So there is a multiplier effect, because directly there is a limit to what you can do. So that's another strategy to back more funds, which funds themselves can back most number of startups. So that's where we arrive at the number of 85 startups that we plan to support in the next 3 to 4 years of this fund. In terms of thesis, obviously we can understand more if someone wants to understand more about the fund. The duration is again 10 years because obviously there's a long gestation period for any of these startups in agri domain, that if they want to scale up and become successful. In terms of allocation, the 750 is divided into 450 crores through funds and 300 crores through direct equity investment. That's one. And just to give a bit more detail around the direct part, this is again for startups which are recognized by DPIIT and they should be incorporated in India. In terms of ticket size, it varies. The maximum is 25 crores that would be put in any particular startup. In terms of instrument, obviously equity, CCPS, multiple instruments would be there. But again, the focus would be on agriculture and rural sector development. The target size of the fund is 300 crores. So we'll be backing around 20-25 companies from this particular set of capital. Apart from this direct scheme, the other thing which is where we support the other funds, those funds would again get a corpus of 450 crores from us, and they'll deploy not just as equity but even debt also. So it's a multi-pronged approach, I may say, just like NABARD has through NABKISAN and NABVENTURES. We also, if I may say, asking other funds to deploy the capital through through the entire agri sector, because that's how the things would grow. In terms of things that we look for in the direct scheme, certain things, the startup is scalable, it should have a growth trajectory, some differentiated offering, not the same run-of-the-mill stuff. You'll have to leverage the networks. The founder should be passionate about it, not just doing because they have to raise funds, but because they are actually solving a problem. The product market fit should be a proven one. That's where certain things we look for. But obviously we can get into those details when we actually come to that. So these two schemes. So the entire objective of the funds that we have run, as well as the support through capital that NABKISAN and NABVENTURES provide, whether it's equity, debt, working capital, or term loan, whichever form or manner, the intent is to have a broader vision, which is built around how to address the problems of agriculture that are present now. Because to build a sustainable ecosystem, you need to fund the startup at the right time, not just when they have actually grown up and you have the capital at hand. That's what we are trying to solve through the different approaches that we have just highlighted. And with that, I'd like to maybe close our bit of the session. But I would like, again, as I said, being afternoon, I would like it to be more engaging. Any question that you may have, we all three would be happy to answer that, because that would solve most part of it.
Turnover wise, should the company be, is there a minimum requirement to apply for this?
You are talking about the AgriShore fund?
Uh-huh.
Not turnover wise. See, because turnover is again an output of what you are actually doing. If you are into the product development stage, there is no chance you would have a sustainable revenue. You would be earning revenue from either a pilot project, a POC stage, or you would be moving to commercialization. As of now, we are looking more from a commercialized, maybe at the start of commercialization or something. In terms of, as I said, if you're developing a product, because you might be running a certain startup.
No, I'm actually representing an FPO.
Okay.
So we already got a grant from NABARD for doing a project called ProPlanter, in which we tried farm automation in a small way. So we are planning to expand that. So we are actually doing it in a city, and most of them are doing other professions. So we are promoting farming in households. So we are using a small system using IoT and doing farming. So we are planning to extend that other than this small project. So I just wanted to know whether we can apply for that.
Yeah. Uh, uh,
So I think, so basically you want some support, financial support for expanding your FPO business. That's what I understand, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, see, in that case, I think NABKISAN will be the right entity for you. Before sir responds to that, basically startup, what we are looking at, it's not just somebody has set up some FPO or any business that is supporting agriculture. They want to expand their business and we can give equity support. Actually, our mandate is not that. Our mandate is there is some company who has come out with some solution in agri-tech or related field that can solve some problem in agriculture in some area and that is scalable. So it's not normal business. It has to be something innovative that has not been done before. I think Rao sir will.
So I'll just continue from where he has left. So I think this is not a new technology that you have developed, isn't it? So you're going to be procuring technology from somewhere and then expand it to your job service area. So you can approach us. We would be very happy to see the business model around that and then provide the required financial support to help you to scale up the operations. We will definitely do that. Do you have a business plan in place?
We actually did a small project already.
Okay.
That was done with the support of NABARD itself.
It was done with the support of NABARD. We will help you to scale that operation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Good afternoon, sir. So far, we don't have any unicorns in agriculture startup yet. So, what makes you thought that which factor is hindering in from this? Especially, we have a few startups like Ninja Kart, Fussel, etc., which is all obviously funded by NABARD also. So, what is the main reasons in the non-unicorns in the agriculture sector?
See, first thing is in why a particular company becomes, when it becomes a unicorn, unicorn again is a term coined by investors. When the company reaches a certain scale, $1 billion sort of scale, and if you look at from investor perspective, why agri, to answer your specific question, why we still don't have a unicorn in agri, that itself is itself an opportunity, if I may say. Because if you look at agri is one sector which has the most disaggregated value chain, right from a farmer to the final plate. You have a long chain of intermediaries which are there. So it's one of the most longest and the most disaggregated chain that way. And to solve the entire chain, see, because you become a unicorn only when you solve a particular problem and you are very scalable and you can do that across pan India. So, or the second option is you are able to raise certain capital without, say, even a revenue also. But what happens is that from an agri perspective, until unless you are solving a problem which is scalable to pan India, you won't get a unicorn. And the problem in agri is that agri, if you look at the agri, entire agri sector in India, it varies according to state, according to climate, according to weather. You have variances around not just climate and weather, but also around people.
Agriculture is a state subject also. It's a state subject also. It's relative.
So state subject, see, certain things are state subject. Maybe land may be a state subject. But there are a lot of things around because there's no uniform policy around that you can implement across India, right? It's easy to scale a fintech business, right? See, unicorn term itself was coined by BFSI. I come from a BFSI background. So, which always, if you look at past 10 years history, BFSI would have raised the largest amount of capital. And most of the unicorns would be in fintech space. There is reason for that, because you don't create something. See, you just move the capital in a very efficient way and you create a certain value. And because investors who put the money behind making something unicorn, they have a very fixed time horizon. For agri, you need a 10-year horizon. That's something like we are trying to bring in. You can't become a unicorn in 5-6 years or something. There definitely would be there unicorns. Maybe when we huddle another time, you would be having some unicorn around it. It's again a matter of time. But you have to solve a problem which is replicable across multiple states. That is something that you would have to look for. Else, it would be a very slow process. That's the only thing. It's a long gestation sort of cycle. Why you still don't have unicorn in agri. And believe me, again, it's the largest sector. India is just young country. So there are 20, 30, 50, 100 years to create unicorn. So my advice is create a product which is sustainable. Investors will follow you. So that's my take on it.
You were saying no, like you support rural development projects, right? So when it comes to that, what type of projects you provide help for?
You are talking about equity support or?
No, in general from NABARD, because I run a handloom clothing brand, and currently we are working on a prototype that involves the revamp of the existing loom structure. Okay, so currently it takes a day to weave 4 meters. With the modification we are planning to do in the loom, with that we can weave 0.5 meter in an hour. So this will help in increasing the productivity of the weavers. Along with that, it will also make the weaving process very easy. See, one of the hazards that associate with handloom is it's very labor intensive, and doing this for a long time has a lot of health problems, right? So I wanted to understand what type of support I could get from NABARD team.
See, earlier, basically what you are talking about handloom, right? Handloom.
Yes.
Okay. So earlier we had such products, we had a separate department for that, off-farm development department. Basically this is a non-farm sector activity. So we generally see activities in two spaces, like whether it is in off-farm or whether it is in farm sector. Mostly we are in farm sector, but in off-farm, yes, we had some program earlier. Like we have in agriculture, we have FPO program, Farmers Producer Organization. We had OFPO program, Off Farm Producers Organization. But I think it is on the verge of coming end. You can check up with your local office if there is some fund available. It has almost come to an end, that program. So we had such program earlier. Yeah. But right now, in our earlier fund, we could have supported, had it been some innovative activity, we could have supported some equity or such thing. In our new fund, it is totally agri, so we can't do much about it. Maybe we have another subsidiary, NAB Samriddhi, that is in off-farm sector. So you may get some loan support from there. That is the kind of support available for this kind of activity right now.
Thank you.
Hello, sir. As you said, you are maybe associated with the startups. So I just wanted to know how you are associating. As you said, it may be through equity mode, or maybe you are providing some kind of debt support. In such case, if it is an equity support, what are the criteria you may be looking into? That is the one question. And another question, if you are associating with one startups, how you are planning your exit route as an equity partner? Have you exited from any startups? That's the other question.
Okay, I think Ashish would like to respond.
Yeah, to the first part of the question, which is that what is the criteria for selecting a particular startup. So I'll answer in two parts. One is the fund itself, because fund is a SEBI registered fund that we run. So SEBI itself has a certain investment objective that we have put across. There, certain criteria are defined. If you recall, in one of the slides I have mentioned 4-5 things around. One is a clearly differentiated offering. Second is around there should be a proven product market fit. in terms of founders, which is more of our assessment, you need a set of passionate founders who want to stray through the crores, not someone who would just move out after one failure or so. Someone who is ready to pivot and still stay strong. And also you need someone on the product side. As I said, the scalability should be there. And when I say scalability, why we always stress about scalability is that because most of the errors that people do in the agri side on the specific equity investment side is that you want to build a solution which you build, but you think that this is applicable across region. But even if you go in a single state, across cities, across rural areas, you'll find that even after going 10 kilometers, that guy doesn't need your solution. So spend some time, pick very specific verticals, get expertise in that vertical, and then replicate that into multiple geographies. Don't get into horizontal thing, because horizontals work in urban space. You have the Flipkarts and the Zomatos and the Swiggy, these are horizontals, right? Because they have solved the supply and demand problem through tech. In your case, in terms of agri, it's a far way off. Supply demand is still not solved because they're not in any of the common platforms. So the intent should be that you build your own vertical strength, keep adding more products, keep adding more verticals depending on capital availability, and then get into your offering to the actual market. So that is the thesis that we look for in any of these startups. Even if you back at an early stage, that's where the strength of founders comes in. He should be adaptable enough in terms of failure also, if the product doesn't work. And secondly, he should also have ability to keep adding products. He should have vision for that. And that requires getting your hands dirty, getting into the ground and working, not in offices and all. So that's one thing. And I think these are the things that we look for, whether it's fund. So fund details can be very specific. We can discuss separately. But in terms of as a investment, as a CIO or as a NABARD, from an equity perspective, we look for these particular qualities in any of the startups that we back. Because traditional things, if they are doing something new, obviously the type of capital you need is a very different. Because again, as I say, equity is the riskiest form of capital. So people would demand very high return from you. Don't go just after equity because it's there and or you may not like the need to return it. It's a very high cost of capital. So take it at a certain stage. Before that, as I said, go for grants, go for welfare schemes, go for any subsidies that you get, and build your product for marketing, for hiring, then go into equity part of it. That's what our basic criteria is to filter. So overarching theme remains this. That's for anything.
Another question was, have you invested in some company and is already in a scale-up stage, already reached a particular level? Have you exited? Have you,
Yes.
as an investor, as an equity investor, you invested there and you exited?
Yes. So we exited in one of the farm to fork company. So we exited from them because again, see, exit again is a very fund specific philosophy because there is a timeline to it. A 10-year fund, a 5-year fund, a 7-year fund, everybody would have a different way to exit. Because if I have a 10-year horizon, I'll wait for you to develop the product and maybe reach a certain stage where you either go for a strategic sale where someone like a large agri corporate may look to acquire you. That is one exit route. Most of the deep tech startups would end up that way. Few of the marketplaces, horizontal platforms, they'll get into IPO stage also, but still far off, but those are the things that we look for exiting through IPO. So there is a strategy in place. But again, as I said, we have done one exit because it's a pretty first fund in terms of agri that we are doing. On a personal level, because I've been in the investment industry for around 17 years. So I've done around 10 to 11 exits, out of which 4 were IPOs, 2 were promoter buybacks, 3 more on strategic acquisition side. And not just agri sector, these were consumers, healthcare, education. So it's a mix of sectors that way. But thesis remains the same in most of these sectors. You'll have to build a product which has a recurring revenue stream, and you have to create investor interest for buying the story that you want. So that's it.
If it is a debt, if you are supporting as debt, what would be the rate of interest? Or if it is subsidized rate?
So this is something that is a question addressed to NABKISAN. See, our interest rates, as I mentioned even during my address, we have a framework for determining interest rates. So we have a framework for determining the interest rates, which is linked to your cost of borrowings, the cost of management, the risk premium, and so on. So we do have some framework on the basis of which we arrive at the interest rates. So, and then it depends, it's a dynamic thing. It changes from time to time. So based on this and based on the revenue visibility of the startup, the interest rates will be determined. So invariably it would start up somewhere maybe 12-13% and go up to 15-16%. But this is just an indicative rate. A lot of things could have a bearing on the final interest rates that we arrive at.
Thank you.
So we have promoted 32 FPOs in Kerala, and out of that 12 FPOs they have received funds from NABKISAN and for different projects. So the FPOs are very happy with the NABKISAN, and thank you NABKISAN for that. So earlier the processing time which was taken for disbursing a loan was less than 3 months. So the FPOs were very happy to apply for a loan, and they were getting the loan sanctioned within 3 months. So that was the experience in the past. But now many FPOs are finding it difficult to get the loan processing time. More time is taken. More than 6 months it is taken for disbursing a loan or sanctioning a loan. Since most of these loan applications are for working capital, it is also affecting their business. So is there any solution to reduce the processing period so that the FPOs can get the loans in time?
Yeah, thank you for this question. See, a couple of things I would like to share. One, when it comes to giving loans, we are an RBI regulated entity. So we are required to follow a framework before we disburse any loans, because we are also inspected, and we need to follow a framework when it comes to fulfilling the documentation required for sanctioning of loans. So usually what we find that there is a lot of delay which happens even at the level of FPO, which actually delays the submission of the loan papers itself. Only when we get the loan documents, loan related documents, we would be in a position to take a call. But your point is taken. There are also certain issues from our side, and we have addressed those issues as well. So now, as I was also telling, we have digitized the entire loan journey. So earlier the sourcing was dependent on individuals. Now the sourcing will start from the FPO itself. So you can simply go to nabkisan.org and start your loan journey so that your sanction takes place immediately. But maybe we promise that, a critical weak link which was there in the loan sanction process has been addressed because of this digitization process. If the documents are made available to us, then we will be in a position to further cut down the time, the sanction time required, the time taken for sanction of loans. So I think we are also trying to bring it down to maybe we are also trying to bring it down to maybe 2 to 3 weeks to sanction the loans, to immediately going forward. So we require the cooperation. We are simplifying the documents. We are digitizing the process as well. So hopefully you will have a better experience in times to come.
Hello. So I want to know that is NABARD is open for lease financing in terms of capex, not on the machineries or equipment side.
I am not able to get, because there's a lot of cross voice coming over here.
No, is NABARD is open for lease financing methods.
Open for lease financing.
Yeah, like the fleet operators, the taxi cabs or something. So that is the lease financing method is there. So for the farm sector, will that be an opening?
Are you talking about custom hire centers?
Yeah, in terms of climate control environments.
Okay, I think we would require more details, but we are open to this idea.
Okay.
So
So I am working on a mushroom idea, where I find that the producers and the consumers of mushrooms are not much aware of the mushrooms. One of them, the producer side, is that there is lack of infrastructure scaling. So till now, the oyster mushroom growers, they are growing with the hut structures only. So the another replacement is the puff panel, which they don't want to implement in the farm side because of the synthetic foam material. It could become a hazard for them. So we are developing a bio panel for that, and we are also reducing the shelf life, increasing the shelf life of the mushrooms. So we are coming there. But the obstacle here is that for the infrastructure part, the farmer can't afford for that. The current subsidy is only for the hut structures, not for the puff panel methods. So in this way, NABARD only can solve this issue.
Okay.
So that is an operation for lease financing, but that for the equipment or machineries means you are open to that. I know there will be a depreciation cost and all, but for this infrastructure side, how will you manage that? Yeah.
See, I don't know whether you were present during my address, but we are actually working with agri-tech startups also, who are providing full stack solutions to shrimp farmers. Recently we have sanctioned. So that the solution that we give to farmers through that ag-tech is a combination of the devices which are required and the technology stack that comes along with that. Okay, so you have got like maybe for example the solar powered aerators, the feeders, the check trays and so on. So these are all devices which a shrimp farmer would require. On top of that, the tech firm is also providing a technology stack to the farmers to have real-time visibility on the entire gamut of shrimp farming. Okay. So now in this, the devices like check trays, feeders, aerators, they are all actually leased out by the tech firm to the farmers on a monthly lease or quarterly lease and so on. So maybe if you are doing something like that, you could also probably think on these lines, and we will be open to consider these sort of proposals from your company.
Sir, so with regard to loan products, whether there is any kind of collateral security required, collateral, and what is the total repayment period?
Yes, sir. I think there are two questions that you have raised. One with regard to collateral security and the other one with regard to repayment periods. Collateral security is required. So we do insist on collateral security from the startup. It could be by way of a personal guarantee by the promoter to the extent of loan taken. So we would be satisfied with that. This is one of the requirements, of course, beyond the primary security. And secondly, with regard to repayment, usually the repayment period, depending upon the type of loan project. If it's a working capital loan, then it would be dependent on the working capital cycle of the activity that you are in. If it is a term loan, then we can suitably construct the term loan so that we are able to map the repayments arising out of the investment activity. But it could be anywhere from 3 years to 5 years.
Hi, I'm Jobin from Malwa. So I have two questions to sir. So first one, my understanding is the direct equity funds from the Agri-Store, it will not be given to the early stage startup. Is it so, or is it only for the revenue stage startup or something like that? Do you have a criteria that this stage is excluded or not?
But don't confuse that early stage startups don't have revenues. I mean, you mentioned that. So
pre-revenue.
When we say pre-revenue, obviously not.
No.
Because again, the capital that has been pulled in, the mandate doesn't include the pre-revenue startups, because again, as I reiterate to the part, from a pre-revenue stage, don't go for equity capital, because at pre-revenue you cannot service a 25% IRR debt, right? It is better to go for a grant or a subsidy or a, if possible, family and friends also. So I suggest, because I'm suggesting a better way, because take equity at a certain stage. It would be do that way. But again, from a fund perspective, from Agri-Show perspective, pre-revenue we are not focusing on. The intent is to have startups with again 4 or 5 criteria that I mentioned, and that would remain so.
And the fund of fund, have you identified which are the funds that you are going to give it, and do they have any criteria where something? And are they all equity investments? It's going to be?
No, so it's a mix of equity and debt, and I think more details are also there on the, I think, because
I'll respond to that. Basically, we have got some 450 crore corpus for that. As I said, we are yet to start investment. Okay. So there's no question of identification as of such, as of now. So if you say again, we will be investing maximum 25 crore in one AIF. That is maximum, or 5% of the corpus of that AIF. So it depends on various calculations. So it may be 10 crore, it may be 15 crore, maximum 25 crore. That will be the investment size in one AIF, and it will be over a period of 4 years. Starting from the first date, it is called first close in SEBI language, first close. So that is the date when we start investment. So once we start, within a period of 4 years, we will be making investment of 450 crore, roughly in again 25-30 AIFs, roughly, with a maximum ticket size of 25 crore again.
Okay, my last question is, recent days I am seeing a lot of climate change related thrust, even from NABARD's area. Like there is a training being organized by BIRD Lucknow for climate change. So do you envision any funds or supporting some startups in climate change addressing ecosystem?
Hello. See, it's not just about equity startup, equity fund. Basically, in NABARD, we have a separate vertical as such, a separate department for climate change. It was opened just 1.5 years back. NABARD is already a national level implementation entity for so many international funds, like your green, National Adaptation Fund, and there are what? Green Climate Fund and all that. So we are already national entity for that, and we are channelizing those funds through different organizations in climate change space. Yes, from NABVENTURES side, this is our second fund, Agri-Shore. Here also we will try to support some startups who are in climate space. Basically, see, farmers is the most affected person from climate. Our crops are getting affected from climate. So any solution which is within that climate space and which is supporting farmer, will definitely support that. Yes. I think we are done with. Okay, one last question we can take, and then we are through. Yeah.
Good afternoon, sir. I am Anup from Calicut. Now we have got a big contract with Codico Corporation. Now we are handling around 100 ton organic waste per day, and also around 40,000 legacy waste we are converting into organic fertilizer. Already we have invested 1 crore rupees over there. With our technology, with our machine, with our manpower, we are doing this. And daily we are producing 100 tons of organic waste or organic fertilizer. Sir, there is any chance to get fund from NABARD, sir? Because we have to increase our production capacity to 400 tons per day. Also, sir, we have got grant from 2 government institutions, mainly Nidhi Payas Fund, around 10 lakhs we have got from waste to wealth concept, and also incubated in NIT Calicut. And also we have got Rashtriya Krishi Vikas Yojana Fund. Also we have through that we have incubated in Agriculture University, Manuti. last 2023 we have got Agri-Infra Fund, sir. And also, sir, in the first time we have one of the startup that work without any tipping charge from corporation. With free of cost, we are doing these all things, sir. Also, we have producing organic fertilizer and also bio compost boosting bacteria, sir. We have a research team in NIT Calicut, and also around 3 to 4 products are waiting for patent, sir. So we need funds, sir, to produce bulk amount of to increase our production capacity. We have up to this time we have a no loan.
See, here this session is not for taking application for funds. Please understand. If you have any such query that you have a project and so, then you directly approach the company itself. So we have you please visit our website. The venture procedure is mentioned over there. How you can approach us. There is a email ID. Everything is given. Because these decisions are not given offhand and it is taken by investment committee, goes through a tedious investment process, right?